MarkLevinShow.com. Everything you need to know about Mark Levin, the books he's written, including the last one, Unfreedom of the Press, and, of course, also since 2015, editor-in-chief of the Conservative Review, worked in the administration of President Ronald Reagan, host of the Mark Levin Show, as well as Life, Liberty, and Levin on Fox News. He's a brethren here on Blaze TV as well. Mark Levin.
We like to just call him the Great One.
The Great One. Levin, welcome back.
The great big one. How are you guys?
Well, I tell you one thing, I don't know. I mean, I watch you.
What a dumb question, right?
Yeah, I watch you, and you seem frustrated with our country. You seem like you're trying to remind everybody who we are, who the founding fathers were, the Constitution of all things. I'm just going to give you the floor, and I would like for you to speak to America right now, because I think we got to be really careful. We got to be really careful, right? I don't want to be all paranoid about it. I understand the levity of this. I understand the dangers, but we got to be real careful right now.
Yeah, I actually have come to the conclusion that we went too far. In other words, I do believe once we understood the likely threat to certain populations within the general population, the elderly and people with comorbidities. I never used that phrase comorbidities till about 2 months ago, but comorbidities, that was the focus. Those people should stay home. They should be protected. They should get focused health resources and so forth. But the vast majority of the population really was not under threat. And I think now that we know it, and some of these Republican governors are trying to open up their states, they're under attack by the media and, unfortunately, some by the administration. You cannot have 26 million people seeking unemployment insurance, and that's below the unemployment level. Those are people seeking unemployment insurance. We don't get any statistics on how many businesses now are done and over. We get no statistics from Dr. Fauci or Dr. Birx. No time each day on how many more people are dying from heart attacks and strokes and diabetes, people dying because they haven't gotten, what are they called, elective surgery?
Yep.
You elect surgery? Right. Rarely.
Elective procedures, yeah.
There's a lot going on out there. The shuttering of hospitals, the closing of hospital beds, doctors, nurses getting laid off, technicians getting laid off. They're flattening the healthcare system. And then you have these sparks of liberty, these sparks of reason and common sense in these various states that are trying to open. Some of them didn't shut as much. Look, we're a big country. We have a diverse population. I love New York. That's where I got my start. But every part of the country is in New York City, and every part of the country is in New Orleans, and every part of the country is in L.A. And by the way, New Orleans is flattening. L.A. really never popped. There's something about this virus that doesn't really behave the way Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx keep telling us. So we know, not to slobber over each other, to wear masks if necessary, to wear gloves if necessary. We know to stay not real close to people. I get out a lot. I drive around to see what's going on, so I know what I'm talking about during my show. I go into the grocery stores and Costco and the drive-thrus, and I see, as even though we have a massive number of people unemployed, we have a massive number of people who are employed and are working. And how are they doing it? That's what we ought to be seeing. There's little businesses all across this country, strip malls and so forth. I'm parked outside of a bagel shop in Virginia. There's about 3 bagel shops in Virginia. I'm just kidding, being from Philadelphia and everything. And it's run by a South Korean immigrant family. I'm literally 30 feet from it, parked in my car. They put a table in front of their door. The door's open. You tell them the order. They go back there and they make it. They put the order on the table in a bag. You put the money in a jar. You walk away, and they take your money. And they're open. That's perfect. Why don't we get information from all the genius entrepreneurs in this country with the hundreds of thousands of businesses who can, quote unquote, mitigate and stay in business rather than saying, all you restaurants closed, all you guys closed, all this guy. I'll give you another example. There's a restaurant. I got friends own a restaurant in Hope Sound, Florida. And they have, you can go inside the restaurant. It's a regular restaurant. And they also have an outside area. And so what are they doing? So they used to have a food truck and they put the food truck in the parking lot, and they make hamburgers and hot dogs and crab cakes and stuff like that. It's almost exactly the same thing. You put your order in, they put it on a table, you walk over, you get it, you put your money in, you leave. People can do this. And the idea that we have to shut down the entire economy when we know there are people out there in the grocery stores working the shelves, our wonderful truckers. You see the FedEx and UPS guys, they're everywhere. The Amazon Prime guys are everywhere. Why are we doing this to ourselves? So I've reached the point where I absolutely do support civil, nonviolent protest in this country. Why not? Why shouldn't we? And the people who are protesting, they're patriots, and they're attacked like the Tea Party was attacked when I was part of that movement, too. We want to open our country back. We don't want to be this massive deficit spending that's going on. That's got to end. The way you create jobs in this country is you create jobs in this country. You're not going to do it through deficit spending through the federal government. So I'm not saying this isn't serious. This is an enormously serious virus. Nobody's taking this for granted. Nobody's playing games. We all have elderly people in our families. We'll protect them, and they need to be protected. We all have people in our families with all kinds of morbidities. They need to be protected. But if you're from the age of really an infant to the age of about 45, maybe 50, you're barely going to even feel this. Of course, there's anomalies, but
Sure.
Statistically, you're barely going to feel it. And you're going to find out, as I've been talking about now for 6 weeks, that the fatality rate is well under 1%.
Yeah, that's the last we heard. Someone yesterday, or a couple of days ago, that was in the medical field said if I could break it down as simple as possible, 1 in 1,000 people will have a
Dr. Inez.
Yeah.
Dr. Inez from Stanford said that. That's 0.1%.
Correct. And
So, Mark, but we're sitting on the other side. Initially, we didn't know what we were up against. I'm not going to blame Trump for what they did, but I am to the point now, like you said, we know more information. So let's move back, and I guess the president's 30 days to mitigate will be up next week, and I think you're going to see a lot of openings at that point, right? I mean, we got a few trying to clamp down.
I think you're right on. And I want you to remember, it was the president 6 weeks ago was talking about opening the economy, and they trashed the hell out of him.
Oh, yeah.
And so he gave the 30 more days, and he's still talking about opening the economy, even though I don't like him trashing the governor of Georgia. The governor of Colorado is a leftist. He's a Democrat. His name is Paulus. And the governor of Georgia is sort of a moderate Republican. His name is Kemp. So Kemp says, look, I'm going to open up my state. And he's got a number of protections in place. He's not letting it rip. His procedures for opening are almost identical to the guy in Colorado. The Democrat takes no attacks, no incoming whatsoever, and this guy Kemp is now the target. And so I go on my show and I defend him. It's just the way I am. I don't like guys being trashed like this, and he's trying to get his state up. Meanwhile, the most incompetent governor on the face of the earth is Cuomo, and they celebrate this buffoon because all he does is hat in hand. He's the one that picks solar panels over ventilators. He's the one that killed thousands and thousands of hospital beds. I mean, he's absolutely an incompetent fool, and they celebrate him. Why? Because he's a leftist. But as to your point, I think the president deserves all the credit in the world because who knew what to do about this? And he followed his science. But my only point is it's time for Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx to move over. There's a lot of scholars and experts who know as much, if not even more than them. They've been in the government a very long time. They come out of Stanford and Yale, these experts. They're coming out of Oxford, Rockefeller, the Science Study College in New York, and all over the place. They're saying, okay, enough is enough. Focus on the people who need help. You got to get the immune system going. You got to get antibodies going, the general population. And we're actually seeing nature is doing that. Even in New York City, we're seeing 13 to 21% of the population there has had the virus. You're seeing it throughout the state of New York. And now the studies are coming back from Stanford and USC and other places saying that the number of people who've had this virus is 55 to 80 times, and these studies are saying the same thing, more than previously reported. And I know this sounds weird, but that's a good thing, because the more people who get it and survive it, the more we have antibodies and immunity.
No doubt. And that's what it creeps me out a little bit. I know we're running out of time. Is the people who tell us to follow the science. We all agreed with that. But then when the science starts giving us good news or showing us that we can open the economy back up, then they say stop following the science. So now it's become propaganda and political.
Now the science is change the voting, so we turn the country into California. The science is government ownership of the private sector. The science is open borders. I mean, if that makes any sense whatsoever. The science is, in other words, the hardcore left-wing statist agenda. And these people never follow the science. They're a joke.
Yeah, and I know you got to go. We could talk.
We could spend an hour with
all
you,
day.
man. I hate we got a short window.
Hey, in 30 seconds, 483 billion more dollars of coronavirus bailout. What is this going to do to our country? We can't continue this, obviously, right?
No, I've been fighting every one of these. What happened to the 2.2 trillion? Gone. This will be gone. Now they want to come back infrastructure. We got to fight this because I'm telling you now, we're going to have hyperinflation. And that's going to make this virus look like a joke. When you have hyperinflation, your currency is worth very little, and the cost of products goes way up. People can't put food on their table. You talk about a healthcare crisis. More hospitals are going to close. More doctors and nurses are going to go out of business. We've got to fight what the federal government's doing. Deficit spending does not create wealth. It is printing money and pushing it into a system. And when you're closing businesses and you're keeping people out of work and pushing money into the economy where it has nowhere to really go in a productive way, this is the quintessential definition of inflation. And people who haven't experienced inflation, let me tell you something. You have no idea what it's like. It's a disaster.